Welcome back, everyone, to the Challengers League Summer Split. I'm Mazel. I'm joined by Magical and Cubby after a heckin' game number 1 by FlyQuest Challengers, man. That's 3 in a row this team has dominated, and it came off the back of some scrappiness, Cubby.
I think it was just a really good understanding of win cons. Like playing around the Annie and the Viego, they shut down the Kazakhs. The FLYC got rolling in the end, and when wasn't able to get online. I feel like the snap engage at Dragon was a big piece of why FlyQuest ended up taking that game, and yeah, I mean, we talked about it at the end. The damage doesn't show from Spyrax. Some mistakes a little bit later with some of the Annie engages, but to get to where FlyQuest was, he was very sound.
Yeah. I think it doesn't really matter, too, with some of those mistakes later into the game, but because we also saw that Masu, Yuji, they were doing so much damage that it really didn't matter. By that point, he had already done his job. He had already gotten some, like you said, some snap plays where he just, like, he turned immediately to Tomio, flashed on top of him as Annie to get the stun, so that way they could all pile on and get the kills.
Man, I still, the big theme for me for FlyQuest so far through 3 games is decisiveness. They are so dirty when they make the decision to kill you. And you had the fact that Spyrax himself was getting those big initiations, but you were playing off of the strength of Masu and the resets off of Yuji. And I know there was some praise going around on Twitter for Yuji as well in the Viego, taking the fight to Tobio a lot of the times too. So really impressive game number 1 from FlyQuest, and definitely something that DSG are going to have to answer for and answer to going into game number 2. But as we do, we have a little bit of a halftime show. We have a little bit of fun prepped up for you. And my drawing skills aren't great, but that's perfect for this segment because we have Art is Challenging coming up here. And while our challengers are challenging the LCS, I want to challenge artists around the world, or maybe our community, to draw us your pictures. Maybe send some in at Path to LCS or at NACL if you want to show us some of your drawings. But I've got 5 that I've drawn up during that game. Ooh. 5! One of them's really easy. I threw it in there at the very end. But I've got 5 drawings here. I've chosen some different themes, things that happened during the game, and I'm going to have my 2 analysts here analyze the art as artists should. So I'm going to go ahead and bring up our first little bit of challenging art as I do. Please don't judge. But I mean, there is a specific situation that this ties to. I didn't want to draw people, okay? It was going to take forever, and so I drew their weapons.
I mean, I feel like, Mazel, this might be your audition to try and join the Disguise social media team. I think this,
true.
I think this fits.
Disguise, if you're watching, I know you are. You know where to go.
I will say, I think that their word art, you might need some practice in there. However, that said, I do know about this one.
Low.
Me too.
Okay.
Tibbers was burned for a chunk on the Cassante, and then Kazakhs came mid with Cassante, and this is where they set behind Spyrax and found that early kill.
The combo, the lethal weapon combo coming through in the mid lane definitely was something that everyone should be afraid of, and especially a Tibbers-less Spyrax. Definitely wishing he had that Tibbers. So a little bit of throwback there as the first kind of segment happened with the lead from Disguised Toast in the mid lane. Now we do move on to our second picture, because if this doesn't represent this first game, I don't know what does. We had an absolute boxing match going through here, because they specifically, man, were just going head to head at the objectives. A lot of contesting from the side of DSG.
Well, yeah, there was a lot of attempted, where they're like, oh, maybe I want to look for this. I want to look for this. It felt like more like the lead up to the boxing match than the actual boxing match, because I think you saw 5 kills by 20 minutes into the game total. And I don't know about you on what you guys were casting yesterday, but here on the Path to LCS, all our games had at least 30 kills by 20 minutes.
That's why there's no hands in the boxing gloves, because they're getting ready for the fight.
Okay.
Because I didn't want to draw arms into boxing gloves at all. No.
Okay, so that dragon fight is where everyone started to box after that.
Yeah.
But that was after.
It is kind of hard to game with boxing gloves on, too.
That's our next challenge.
Might be a challenge,
That's our next challenge. LCS Challengers trying to add challenge to their stuff. All right, we got a third picture here. And a little bit of redemption arc from the first picture that we had. What could this possibly have been?
Baron, Spyrax, Flash, Bug Die, go Splat.
Baron or Dragon?
It was the dragon.
Yeah, Dragon.
It was the dragon.
I could have drawn.
That's why it's a Baron or Dragon.
But doesn't that Tibbers look so happy to squash some bugs? I need like a bug squashing Tibbers.
I mean, I feel like this guy looks a little bit better, personally. Like
wow.
maybe.
Wow, what are you trying to say?
This isn't Tibbers, but maybe it's a knockoff. This is actually Blue from Jungle Book, but you know, we're gonna move on.
Shout out to Jungle Book.
Shout out
this
Bears everywhere, you know.
Okay.
Yeah, go Cubs too.
No bias.
And no bias.
A little bit of a redemption arc for Spyrax, and really where FlyQuest turned it around, right? That decisiveness came through clutch for them as it has in the past. Now we're moving on to our second to last photo. We had a nice little bit of a meme photo created by FlyQuest, and I just had to add a finishing touch. Yuji was popping the hell off on his Viego and buttered some disguised toast today.
That is a solid one. I love that. The callback there. Yuji did a great job on Viego. The early game, you know, he did have some issues against Tomio, where Tomio was getting the better end, just making sure that he utilized the lane priorities that DSG had drafted. But there was that point after the fight where Yuji had gotten himself a couple kills. He was 2-0-2. And he felt a lot stronger, so he could actually go toe-to-toe against Tomio. In fact, he was the one chasing away the bug at that point.
Now, I say that art is challenging, but I just want you to note the hints of burnt on the toast. Took a long time for me to, you know, put that together. It wasn't just clicking the spray can button and spraying some black on it.
That toast has some serious 5 o'clock shadow. I'm gonna leave it there. And
I mean, they got a little bit burnt in game number 1. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Well, see, now this is the question: how do you guys like your toast? Do you like it more on the burnt side?
A little burned.
I personally like it more on like just barely. Where it's like it just got a little bit of a crisp to it.
The toaster is like 1 to 6. I'm probably at like a 3. You know, in the middle.
Okay.
Little,
Yeah,
not black, little brown.
I'm at 2.
There's some people that like soft toast. You know, you go.
Well, that's
like
what the butter's for.
Oh.
Yeah, that's why I like it too. So it's got a little bit of crunch. You put the butter on, it gets a little softer. Boom, done.
So this was what I was originally going to go with. These 4. I was like, oh, that's a good story picture. And then Masu was like, nope. I'm not leaving this game without making you talk about me. So I got a combo here. Masu, feel free to use this as an emote if you want, whatever you want to do. But we got a representation here. What could it possibly mean, Magical?
A Wi-Fi wizard.
Let's go.
So for some people that might just be joining us for this split, when Masu entered the league last split, he didn't have a visa yet, so he was playing in Canada to LA servers, which led to like 120 ping usually. But then there was a great screenshot where his coach was like, wait, you're on Wi-Fi? And just like his head exploded. And Masu was playing the first few games of the split on Wi-Fi where they were actually doing okay and winning. So the fact that Masu has come over here and is now in person with FlyQuest is great. We talked to him yesterday. Also, I know last year we had Unforgiven in the league, and he had high compliments for Masu, who it was their first split of Challengers and second split playing competitively. This is a player that has really grown and risen quickly in the scene, and one that we think really highly of, and maybe even think could see some LCS opportunities in his future.
Absolutely could. And that was our segment. Art is challenging, as it truly is. Don't judge my artistry.
Hey, you did a good job. You did a good job.
Yeah, I thought the Ruined King, it was hard. I was going to go all like complex with the Ruined King's sword, but you know.
It was nice.
No, I think you did a good job.
It just had to be plain and simple. Just like buttered toast. But I do want to set up a little bit of the stakes. I know we put a huge focus on Winsome and Zeyzal in that game number 1. While I think we saw a lot of focus put into them, but in the leadership role, it came down to a lot of mechanical execution from the likes of Masu, from Yuji, but even on the other side, we were seeing some strength from Tomio earlier on the Kazakh. So, Cubby, before we get into draft, just want to get your kind of takes going into game number 2.
Drop Kazakhs and deny Annie from FlyQuest. I've seen Annie played twice by Spyrax already, and I feel like they have a really good idea how to play around this champion. So I want to see a little bit of a better response to Annie, like a Syndra. If it is let through, Syndra's one of Young's best champions, so could be something that we could see.
I want the Aurelia just for funsies. We are getting into game number 2 of the day, though. We'll go ahead and take it over to draft, guys.
All right, let's get into the second game between Disguised and FlyQuest Challengers as they swap sides. DSG don't have to worry about banning things like Nico, Emilio, Zarya, even though they do ban the Nico on the blue side, kind of indicating that they don't want to pick that, and they're worried that FlyQuest will kind of call their bluff, say, hey, we don't think you're going to pick this first, so we'll just make sure this is off the table. But like you said, I kind of want to see if they're going to try to hit the pool of Spyrax, maybe take away that Annie early on so they don't have to worry about that.
You know, I was tuning into some of the co-streams after we were done, I heard Golden Glue actually pop into the co-stream, coach of Disguise, to talk about some of the picks. They think that Milio is really strong right now, which is really no secret. So at the moment, with Milio and Yuumi both up, we could see Disguise maybe going for that trade again, or I should say again from yesterday. They didn't get the best of it in their second game, but it is still something that I think a lot of teams are comfortable with. And with Zeri denied, I am a little bit more comfortable with that first pick Milio, given that you can get champions like Aphelios, like Jinx, and there's Disguise. Taking away that Annie from FlyQuest, I feel like that's a good call. And Spyrax has proven that, FlyQuest, they do have a good understanding of how to play with Tibbers. So I think that's necessary, as both Milio and Yuumi are on the board. See if Disguise wants to grab one of them.
And I also like that vibe band there away from Tomio, something that he did really well in the last split, playing that a lot. Plus, as you called out, Milio being left open, Yuumi being the trade. Winsome could easily grab that for Masu and have that Aphelios Yuumi bot lane again. Even if the lane is going to be a bit difficult, we saw that it does struggle into especially aggressive things like Lucian. It's still something that can scale really well into the game and become incredibly powerful.
And that actually will be the Lucian picked up. That's a bit of a deny, as Lucian plus Milio is a very powerful combo. I'm now expecting to see Meech go towards that Aphelios, as they did play this combo in game 1, where they found the victory against TLC. So I think that we will see Aphelios come in here, and then curious to see what Disguise actually goes for on 3, as they do have some options. They could respond to the Wukong, or they could try and just secure something like an Ahri that has been really good for Young so far.
Yeah, but looking at the moment, that Aphelios makes a lot of sense. As you called out, it was their first win that they were able to get that one. And then Cassante, something else that is open. There are a lot of powerful picks that we could see from either side. The junglers, Tomio could get something that does well into Wukong if they want to. Really, we'll just have to see what they decide. I would expect the Cassante kind of to be the higher priority of anything.
They have a choice, because given that Lucian is showing, they have to go Nami here, pretty much. They could go Yuumi. I'm expecting a Nami to come in for Winsome. So that if you were to go a solo lane, you would be able to somewhat protect them still with bans in the next phase. But it will just be the Sejuani, so setting up for some melee solo laners potentially for the side of Disguise. I expect them to ban Cassante in the next round of pick and ban, but I think that Young is at his best when he is on melees and able to play forward. I do think that Syndra is his best champion. It's one that he's been known for a long time on the server. But
yeah, but not like Aurelia, man. Not like that Aurelia.
Besides that, he is the assassin player that likes to move forward. I like his Zoe too. So Sejuani can really start to free things up. As I think Disguise, the bans, I expect to see a Cassante ban here, and then likely maybe even a Sion ban, given that Gwen was just taken away by FlyQuest.
Yeah, it makes it a little bit easier for them too, dependent on what they want to grab for Fake God in this top lane. Kind of like looking at what options they have. The thing is, you ban Cassante, you ban Sion. What do you leave open then, Cubby? What is Faisal's champion that you would leave open? This is a quiz. This is a quiz.
It's Olaf.
It's Olaf. So that was not like. So instead of banning, instead of banning both of them, why not just leave them open? Give the choice over to which one Faisal wants to get, because they take away that Jax. And I'm expecting Olaf to be the last ban here for DSG.
I'm expecting Cassante. I think that given FlyQuest bans, they are asking for Disguise to ban Cassante by taking away Gwen and Jax. I think you're okay leaving up Sion, given that you called out. Yeah, it's
there it is. Okay, there it is.
I do expect Faisal actually to still lock in Sion here. I think Sion is still the pick. Yeah.
All right. I mean, I still prefer saying Faisal on things like Olaf that he's very well known for, but the Olaf is still such a strong pick. Not having to worry about Gwen either will make this lane a lot easier for Faisal. And Faisal, even in a bad lane, was able to pilot it very well and efficiently.
Now let's see if Fake God can play Olaf, as that's actually something that Fake God did not play. Only played once last split, but I think it's good. Oh, it's actually going to be his Renekton. So he was drawing bans for the Renekton against TL. This is technically a self-counter matchup, given history, but something that Fake God does play really well. And with the Sejuani, has a lot of power. As Young, he's going to blind the Akali. Honestly, would love to see a Lissandra here for the side of Spyrax. I feel like the lockdown against the Akali would be good, but Spyrax, well, this would be interesting. That maybe it's just a shout out to him. Spyrax's best champion historically has been the Azir.
Yeah, I mean, I just see a NACL for Young, one of his favorite picks that he gets for himself. You have Fake God on his champion, his most played and Renekton. Then Spyrex pulling out his comfort champion in Azir.
I mean, this is a self-counter matchup, as Akali should still be able to take down Azir, but a lot of the Azir changes, you now max W, and Azir has been going for builds like Nashor's Crown.
It's the old school build.
Yeah, it's the old school Azir, like back when he first came out, if you're playing the game way back in Season 4, Season 5. Just doesn't have the broken range that he used to. You can't attack wards with your W, and you can't throw your W in the turrets because those features were all broken. But Spyrex...
What? You're saying free damage on turrets by just pushing W and then chunking it for like 25% health wasn't good?
All broken. Spyrex known for his Azir, though, if you are first tuning in. So, honestly, adds an interesting wrinkle into the FlyQuest comp because you see Emilio Felios, you're like, okay, that scales really well. It's a lot of range, but it's 3 champions that have to jump into you, and Azir can be very valuable in providing that peel. It's going to be kind of tough to get through the Sion, Wukong plus Azir. Not to mention Nami tidal waves too, so important that this guys are able to find leads early in this game. Utilize the power of that Renekton Akali with the Sejuani.
That's really what it's going to be about. It's finding those early leads, especially through the top half of the map. Utilize the double melee that you have from your solo lanes with the Sejuani to try to get these advantages, especially if you can put Spyrex behind on this Azir. Make it very difficult because going for the W max build, it is something that you do need to make sure that you're relatively even on, so that way you're not falling so far behind you just don't get any damage out and you get bursted down before you can even throw out some soldiers.
And we'll see if Spyrex is up to the task as first look at Noob Azir, at least in Challengers. I know that Sudsy was playing it quite a bit in the promotion relegation tournament as he got Tony Top's team through. You can see Sudsy actually competing with, I believe, Mirage Alliance and OQs, as we had those earlier today to open up the LCS Challenger stream before we got into the NACL action. Shout out to the OQs and everyone helping out with that, as a lot more players than just what you see in Challengers trying to compete and try and make it in the NA scene.
Yeah, we have 10 teams here, but we have tons of teams and tons of players all throughout the OQs. I know I have my eyes on it. There are a lot of players that we've even seen that were part of the Challenger split before, now participating in the open qualifiers. So make sure you pay attention to that. But here, in this game, this guy is going for a bit of an early invade, putting down a ward so they can really path out and figure out where Yuji will be on the map right away.
Oh, Zazlo drawing first blood on the Spyrex. That's plus 20. Take that to the bank.
Uh-oh, GG's. What can you buy with that?
We'll see. As Young, with this blind Akali going into Spyrex. Young, if you missed yesterday or the offseason, Young actually was with Golden Guardians Challengers. GG gave him the opportunity to stick with the org as a sub. Young said no, took less money to play and compete with the Skies. And the coach Golden Glue was like, hey, that's something that fires me up. The fact that we have a player that was willing to do that for our org, I must say it's kind of badass from Young.
And that's something I love about Young, is he's someone who is rearing to compete. You know, when he got a sub in for the LCS briefly, this guy, even if it wasn't like the greatest showing in the world, he was like, you know, I love it. I love being able to go onto that stage, getting this potential to compete against the best in NA, and really try to see where I stack up so I can learn and grow from there.
And I know that after that experience, and Young said, is like, hey, I've got nothing else to fear, right? I played on the biggest stage. I wasn't as scared there as I will be next time. Yeah, I was more scared there than I will be next time. My bad.
There you go. All right. You got there eventually.
We got there.
But that's the thing. It's a great thing from Young. And you know what's also great? Is subscribing now. Twitch Prime, everyone. Twitch Prime. Get it into the chat. That way, you can get the cool emotes. You know, we got the caster ones. Or you have a cool play like this that you can support.
Tomio missed the first part of the W after the Q flash, so they weren't able to connect the stun on the Spyrex. And that will just be a trade of flashes, which is okay. But now Yuji with the red buff is going to push Tomio out. That's really big. The bot lane for FlyQuest does have Shub, so they can help support Yuji on this invade. And Tomio's going to have to drop a couple of his camps here.
Well, Spyrex, he's not too deterred either. He can show up and help defend a little bit as well. And being that you are Sejuani, lacking a lot of the damage, kind of needing the initial engage if you're going to be the ones to look to contest or even fight back, makes it really difficult here for DSG. And when we look at...
tough.
What's up?
I look at, I mean, Tomio, he's losing his red now too. Like, Yuji's going to get both Reds for the second game in a row against Disguised. And that first play against Spyrax, missing that first part of the W, they weren't able to chain the stun. Tomio just randomly fishes there, not able to find it. Yuji now can try and get out. Okay, that is big. He's
waiting
gonna
it
have
out,
flash.
flashing over the wall. Will survive, but burning a flash early, I mean...
It's still worth it.
It's still worth it, yeah.
It's still worth it. I love the opener from Yuji. This is really good for FlyQuest Challengers.
Yeah, it's looking great from them so far. Mid and bot are also in a great position that can help back up Yuji. And as you kind of pointed out, it seems very reminiscent from what we saw in the previous game, where we saw that Yuji was getting these early leads over Tomio. But unlike in that previous game, Tomio's not on Kha'Zix and isn't going to be able to just go and try to look for an early play mid lane. He has to rely on other people to really to make sure that he can set up kills.
Oh, he could rely on his top laner here, Fake God. Now, Fake God drew Renekton bans yesterday against TL in the first phase. I think we're seeing a little bit as to why. Fake God's Renekton really good at one of the picks that he used against Dignitas Challengers in the finals of Challengers last split to topple them and find the win for Cloud9.
Well,
as
you want
Fake God.
to know a fun stat about his Renekton in spring?
Yes, fire away.
In playoffs and the regular season, he did not lose a single game
10-0.
on his Renekton. He was 10-0 on this champion. It is his most played in his entire career. This is a champion that, when in doubt, give Fake God Renekton.
And paired up with the Sejuani, too. You can see Tomio, even off that reset, he does have his top camps up, and I'm curious to see if and when he's able to visit this top side, because this lead for Flysaw, or Fake God, I should say, against Flysaw is big, and honestly, I'm expecting to at least see a Bork come out of Fake God to make sure that he is able to continuously pressure the Scion in this matchup.
But something that is good about Faisal is in this weak side top lane, and something that we saw a lot of him before, wasn't necessarily like him being the most powerful laner, right? It was really about how he was able to build up with the rest of the team and really work out how they could team fight, especially with the Cincinnati Fear. That's why we saw him be such a powerful tool for the team. It was when he used those TP flanks to really join in with the rest of the squad. And we got to see a little bit of that last game after he was in this lane, that lane for such a long time against Gwen. Once he was able to join with the team, he was just the big, beefy front line that nobody could touch.
He does his job. That's really what even talking to the brand new head coach of FlyQuest Challengers, Rocco, said when they pick up Faisal. Like, hey, this player fits exactly what we need, and it's someone that does his job on the Rift. So Faisal is going to be behind in this one, given the matchup and given the Sejuani jungle, but we will see if he can do his job later in the game. So
He'll be fine, yeah. He'll be fine as long as he doesn't die. That's really the thing. Don't die and don't lose too much in the top lane.
Tomio gonna make an appearance bot.
I feel like Masu and Winsome should be fine. It is a Lucian lane. Has flash available. Can still get out of there unless they're able to get that CC locked down first from the soccer ball of Zeyzal. Not really expecting too much. Looking at DSG and how the early game kind of has panned out for them so far, Tomio, even though he did lose the double red over to Yuji, they've been doing fine elsewhere. Bot lane is not falling behind. We talked before about the Lucian Nami lane when you're facing off against that as an Aphelios. As long as you're not losing too much, you're in a good position. Mid lane has actually got a little bit of a lead in the experience over Sparks. Top lane is absolutely dominating, and this is giving freedom to Tomio to catch back up to Yuji.
Yeah, Tomio team pushing mid lane there, so Young can maybe help him invade this red buff, or at least pressure the top side. Is Yuji going to drop that and hit the Krugs, and Tomio is going to get a camp back in his favor as the priority for each solo lane for Disguise coming up big here.
Yeah, utilizing that power they have from Renekton too. We can see that reflected, even if it's not a massive gold lead. It's
that's red-white.
Slightly reflected there. Red-white, let's fight. Bot lane, trying to push out Masu and Winsome. But that is still a big minion wave that is going to crash towards Masu and Winsome. So they're not really losing too much. It, to me, feels more like Meech and Zeyzal are ready to get like recall off or just try to see if they can get this plate before going back.
Herald's on the board, and I heavily expect Herald to go to the side of Disguise. Given the Renekton top, have the power of the Akali, the Sejuani too, just all these combos. But in the meantime, good to see Meech cashing in with Zeyzal a little bit on some of the prio that you can get with the Aphelios with the right guns as they get the flash out of Winsome.
Nice flash, though, from Winsome. Barely will survive, because that was certainly death for him.
I know Meech, something that I talked about yesterday. So they did play Emilio Aphelios in the first game against TLC. I think Meech is very good when it comes to spacing with longer range marksmen, the ones that don't always have the most mobility. Aphelios lines really well with that, given how Meech is able to rotate out some of those guns. But I feel like to see him lane a little bit better this split's good, because that's always really where we've looked for Meech to up his game. He's always been someone that has had the reaction time and able to team fight, but he needs to lane better if he wants to be a good LCS marksman.
Put this on a pause, because that was
he's
just
dead. No,
yeah.
there's nothing to talk about. Goodbye. Faisal going down, Fake God. That's why they picked Renekton into the Scion.
Yeah, you saw that burst damage, and like, I'm Scion, I'm tanky.
Oh.
Yeah, you're not with the Bomby Cinder.
It's not the best matchup in the world, but when you have Sejuani and then you have Fake God's Renekton, he's able to make it a much better matchup than what it usually is. So props to Fake God, as him and Tomio do find that first blood in favor of Disguised, and the solo laners for Disguised do a decent job here. I will say, going even with the Azir, not exactly what Young was looking for, but Fake God being up this much and going for that Gorge Drinker against the Scion, that's very early on in this game, and he's going to be a menace.
He's going to be able to solo out this lane from now on. Really, this is going to put a lot of pressure onto Yuji. Because Yuji, he got those early red buffs, right? He was able to get some pressure back on Tomio, but what has he been able to do since then? And this is something that we really have to look at when it comes to FlyQuest, because while their team fighting has been really good so far in the 3 games we have seen, when they have a play and they are all on the same page, they look unstoppable. Beforehand, with how things are slowed down and not really going in their favor early on, especially on the top half of the map, this is going to put a lot of the onus on Yuji to try to gang up with someone like Masu and Winsome in this bot lane to see if they can get some advantages elsewhere.
I will say, curiously enough, we actually have Spyrax going for the crown first, or what I expect to be a crown. I know that I'm kind of... I want to see FlyQuest do more, but I feel like it's going to be time Mad Magical. I think the big thing is getting a 0 to 2 items, and after that, then FlyQuest can start to look.
Well, that's my problem.
Yeah.
If you're waiting for 2 items against an Akali and a Renekton...
They're okay. They got that first dragon for themselves, so it's not like the soul stack's going to be incredibly lethal. It's just they need to hold on to these solo wins. Spyrax doing a decent job of that on the Azir, but we'll see how much more Disguise can get elsewhere. I would love to see Tomio actually drop this Rift Herald mid. I think that throwing 2 Heralds into a high wave clear mid laner can really help open things up. But at the moment, Tomio going to hang on to it as they're going to start looking for this dragon play, and they're going to maybe find Yuji in the river here.
Spotting him out, seeing that passing ships in the night in the river.
Yeah.
Neither of them starting that up just yet, waiting to see which lane gets priority, as both mid and bot have already cleared out. Seems like Young trying to get a little bit of chip damage back onto Yuji, onto Spyrax, but he dashes away, has to flash over the wall to survive. Took a lot of that as Yuji too. He is low, but that is more important. The jungler being low means that he cannot rejoin this fight around Dragon.
Yeah, Young thought about it there, going back in onto Yuji. But he will be forced to the top side of the map. That will be the dragon falling in favor of Disguised. I think that's okay still for FlyQuest, just because they don't quite... they got the first dragon, so they can still on some time. And time is what is going to be important here for FlyQuest, is their comp all about the 5-stack. At the moment, Disguised, first dragon going over to them. Good, 2k gold lead, even better. And now we'll see if they can turn that into the upcoming Rift Herald, as, okay, this Herald might be looked to be dropped bot as Meech.
Got a lot of damage onto Winsome. Bubble connects onto Meech, but he gets the heal as well as the cleanse that came out from Zazel to help him out with that one. It's just going to be about poking them out. Tomio still waiting it. I'm waiting to see. Oh, there it is. Okay, so he does drop the bot lane.
Yeah. All right, funnel gold into the Aphelios. I think the other option was to try and throw it down mid. I know that Akali into Azir, you're not going to be hitting that turret very often, but gold into Meech, a winning strategy yesterday for DSG when they were on the Emilio Aphelios. Going to try and do so again with the red-white. Should be another plate falling even in favor here of DSG and Meech. Well played by them.
Masu is pretty low. It won't be that final 4th plate there that falls. It's going to just be the 3 that are taken off initially. We still got a minute left, but I doubt we'll see that final one fall for the side of DSG, but they still got a huge amount of gold swung over to Meech.
DSG. I feel like, given the draft, somewhat on schedule with what I expect for Disguise to be able to do here. I still think the big key for me is maybe slowing down this Azir. I still want to see what kind of build Azir goes with. I am surprised that it's not the Nashor's Rush. I assume that we'll see that second, as
It probably is due to the fact that he's just worried about once he gets that first item completed compared to Young's, that if he doesn't have that crown, he'll die every time before he can even get a single auto attack down. And that's something like I want to even talk about, like DSG having 3 of the members of Cloud9 Challengers, the champions from last split. That team was very well known for their early game, for how well they exerted pressure from every single lane and just skill checked everyone, saying, you know what? It's not, we're going to get all these huge leads from our solo lanes so that when the team fights eventually happen, we're so far ahead, you can't really do much. And we're already seeing that from Fake God. Young being the new player with these 3, coming in from Golden Guardians Challengers, while he doesn't have a massive lead, he's still on a Kali. All he needs is that 1 kill, and that's going to be a huge threat.
And of course, this mid game going to be so lethal for Disguised as we get here. I like the fact that he called it out, that C9 team was really a full court press, right? Fake God would win on his own. Boston Sazel win with some help because that was the meta. And then they had M&S, who had like, what, 26
solo kills.
26 solo kills in 18 games before he got promoted. And then Diplex came in and was also an LCS level mid laner. So things are pretty good for Cloud9 Challengers last split. Oh, Tomio.
Masu, nice reaction there. Was able to easily skirt away.
Quite the attempt trying to catch Masu off guard, but he survives the skill check because now Yuji going to come down and answer. There's no ult for Tomio. They could look if they so choose. Spyrax here to support as well, but gonna be no dice.
No dice, nothing to play over either for FlyQuest Challengers when you really look at it. Same with DSG, since the Rift Herald is the only objective that is spawned that's on the top half of the map. So both sides kind of realizing that. They call off the plays. That, you know what? Why don't we instead regroup around the top half of the map?
I do think Herald is the play here for DSG and should be free in their favor. As Masu gonna actually eat a lot of damage as
Moonlight Vigil.
The Q from Zazel was sound. Yuji actually forced to come down here to hover.
Yeah,
but
look at that.
Tomio's behind.
That's a lot of damage. Moonlight Vigil connects onto Winsome, but he already flashed. Now Yuji has to dash over the wall. Like you said, flashing away. Winsome will survive. But that's the second time that we've seen that flash had to get blown out of Winsome to survive Moonlight Vigil. But this time, a lot more crucial because that turret being so low, DSG will take the first turret down.
Props to Meech, man. He's played out this matchup really well this game. I know it was a big Aphelios game from Masu in the last one with that Yumi. But Meech and Zazel playing this lane really well to find a lead into this Lucian and Masu. As the 3K Goldie now, I mean, things are starting to get, I'd say, slightly to the point of concern for FlyQuest Challengers. As now they're going to be forced to put their bot lane mid where they will still be dropping priority to this Aphelios Millia that should match. So I think FlyQuest, they have to drop this Rift Herald. I don't think they can fight this now. The next Dragon going to get hairy too, if that's where the focus of DSG is going to be. And it's really just a waiting game here for FlyQuest where they try and get this comp online.
And that's going to be a big question, whether or not it's going to come online.
How much do they sack?
Right, how much do you lose? How much do you continue to bleed out? Because you are now 3,000 gold behind. There's only been the 1 kill in the top lane, but DSG are gaining these leads. The bot lane turret that was picked up by Meech and Zazel. Tomio back in the game, being that initiating tool they can rely on, as Young is kind of the question mark, the unknown factor. But that is a wild card you do not want to have to deal with or worry about being an Akali.
Now, we still have this guy's leaning towards the Herald, as we did see ult go a little bit wide there from Tomio.
Yeah, they'll take it. They're just going to take it. They're going to take it and trade for the Dragon.
And it's a Cloud, so who cares? But
it's also a second Dragon for either team.
Yeah.
Not really the biggest either. So they're just like, you know what, we'd rather get this, continue that full court press that they have going on.
Yeah. They were able to lean it into the top turret too, given the setup beforehand. So I think it's all okay for the side of Disguise. It's just, I think some of these plays need to start connecting for them, because this is, for me, where the Disguise comp is really going to be strong for the next couple minutes. And after this, I do somewhat favor FlyQuest moving forward. As I think
once they complete their second items, I'm going to start favoring FlyQuest Challengers a bit more.
I mean, it depends on what the deficit is at the moment, because Disguise is still up 4K gold. That's very significant at this point of the game. But yeah, second, third items, I think that's when FlyQuest, you know, Azir starts to be able to interact a little bit more with Aphelios. Him stepping up going to be harder, even with increased range you get from the Milio, who is still so strong on this patch. But at the moment, it's just, you know, what else can Disguise get while their comp's really strong? That's what I really want to see, is Oh boy, that's a Black Cleaver already for the Renekton. Okay, that's
Oh my goodness.
that's aggressive. That's 2 items at 1830. That's not bad here for Fake God.
I have a feeling Fake God is saying whoever comes into this lane is dying. Top die. He has gone full top die.
I mean, he's so far ahead that Yuji can't even look at that lane. Like, he was just forced to try and look elsewhere as Wave's still being traded and disguised. We are at the down point of the game where it's just kind of like wait for Baron to get spawned, because that's the next point that you can really threaten if you are disguised. And mid turret doesn't look like it's going to fall anytime soon, but curiously enough, I do like this from FlyQuest. They have swapped up the side lane priorities, so they're actually going to have the Azir matching the Renekton and then Sion matching Akali. Akali can't move Sion, so I feel like this is a nice little change up here from FlyQuest to keep themselves a little bit safer at this point of the game.
And it makes it a little bit easier because Spyrex can keep the Renekton at bay for at least some duration, clear out the wave without having to interact with them too much. But here we go. Mid lane crashing. Yuji already having to use the Cyclone early. And look how much damage he took for it. But the Choo-Choo train flashed away by Tomio. Faisal came out of nowhere. But unfortunately, he has to go back to nowhere because it didn't really help out too much outside of denying this turret take early. And all the while, 4v5. DSG not the turret.
And you can see how much damage Meech can pump out when Milio does have that W on him, and how safe Meech feels to step up. As love to see the aggression from him again. I still expect this guys to be ahead at this point of the game. FlyQuest, I mean, they deter the play. They get a flash out of Tomio. Maybe that's something they can punish, but still
it's a flash out of a tank, though. You want to get the flash out of Meech. That's the big one. As now they're pulling. They're looking for him, and they've got him. What a play from Spyrex to find the bot lane of DSG. But Fake God, we got to keep our eyes on Young and Fake God. Masu alive, but he is executed by perfect execution. All the while, Tomio taken down by Yuji, but it's the solo lanes. 2v3. You got to be careful. Fake God's huge. Guard Drinker ripping up everybody. Double kill. Top lane. Top dies as Fake God, because he's the only god here.
We were going to talk about how much can Disguise get out of their lead now. Well, Fake God and Young arrived just in time to make sure that toast ain't getting buttered this time around. They're the ones taking it to FlyQuest as we get a second look, and I love the engage coming out of FlyQuest Challengers. Spyrex says, hey, we got some tools out of them. Let's go for the flash scoop. They are able to execute Meech. They take down Zazel. But FlyQuest Challengers, they overcommit. The TP from Fake God was in the perfect place where he is so fed on this Renekton. He put himself in the middle of everything in that fight, just where you want to be. And when they take down the 2 damage dealers first, no one else can deal with the Renekton and Akali. And Fake God just continues to move forward. Nothing able to stop him as he rips through this team fight with Young and Disguise find the ace.
The solo lane's coming up huge, and like I said, it's the wild card, the unknown factor of Young. But if he gets a kill, he is going to be disgusting. Well, he's got himself 2 kills. Fake God 3-0-2 on Renekton. They have everything they could want for the solo lanes to carry this game.
Great TP from Fake God, as and that is game changing. Is nice chunk here from Masu. Preemptive Gale Force actually. They could look. No one else here to follow up, though, from Disguised. FlyQuest is going to be at the back foot. You got to imagine this Dragon goes over to Disguised if they want it, but even that it is a Cloud Soul, I think Disguised is going to look for as many objectives as they can take. Eyes on those 2 side lane inner turrets. That will be another gold boost for the side of Disguised. They try and even up this series 1-1. And again, if you are a Disguise fan tuning in, I really feel like they're going up against the other top teams in the league in TLC and FlyC to start off this season. I expect these 3 squads to be top 3 by the end of the season. So a 2-2 split against these squads ain't bad, as we've seen some decent play early from some of the teams we expect to be topping the standings for our Challengers League.
Especially with how this game has looked, too. They've gotten all the full court press to work so well for them that with those leads they had only a single kill all the way up until about 18 minutes into the game, until that last fight, really, when everything started to go crazy for either side because they didn't need it. They didn't need to get all those kills. They were winning out in every single lane.
Yeah. That's just good use of priority, and this is what, as you called out earlier, the core of C9C did so well, Matt Magical, as they were able to win the league last split. It was really playing with winning lanes and doing things with them. Well, this time around, Disguised Toes with the same look, able to do it. Spyrex gets caught.
Spyrex gets caught. Spyrex gets almost executed. Tomio taking up a lot of tower. The root was already there. The root had already been used, so Spyrex barely will limp back to his base, but the wave clear now is gone. This turret will fall.
Important that Disguised still able to pick up these objectives, as Spyrax will be close to that Nashor's Tooth. I still am a little bit wary of 2 items from FlyC, especially on this Azir, as old Azir, his ability to rip through frontline, it really is unmatched, as Spyrax doesn't have that Nashor's yet. Until then, the map is still Fortis, guys. They have a really big gold lead, and they're using it well, playing out this 4-1 across the map, as they're going to take that inner turret, take the dragon, and probably reset, use the rest of Baron buff, just make sure that they're going to get first hand the map yet again.
This is also something to kind of bring back with the conversation of how we have the core of Cloud9 Challengers still here. Because when that team got leads, very rarely, very seldomly did we ever see them let up the pressure. It was always accelerating the game further and further every step, pretty much pedal to the metal once they get these leads. And I know you're woofing it because Fake God having 11k gold, being 2,000 above the next closest, his own teammate of Young.
Yeah, I know that there were some questions like yesterday, like, hey, why are you banning Renekton in the first phase? Yeah, this is why. Fake God, in this league, he's earned that ban for himself, as he's been quite good on the Croc.
10-0 in spring.
Yeah, I mean, so solid in this game, as nothing but control from him in this top side, able to snowball it in the fights too. And FlyQuest laying a trap here. We'll see if this guy's is wiser to it if they fall victim. As good check from Zazel. It's the ultra mega kick, I believe.
I call it soccer ball because that is too much to say.
It is cooler. I respect it. We were joking, me and Mazel, yesterday, the fact that super mega death rocket is an ultimate.
That's why I don't say
champ creep. Ultra mega kick is a Q. That sounds like an ult to me. This champ creep is absurd.
Looking at Young, though, nearly picked off, but he's dashing away back into the Twilight Shroud and using perfect execution to get out of dodge.
All-for-all trade, I will say. Young does have the empowered TP, so that's a trade up for the side of the Skies, but they feel like they cannot continue to push on this side, given that Fake God still has priority on the bot side. They are grouped as a 3-stack. We'll need Young to get back, and they're going to try and save that empowered TP. So still just going to be a little bit of a quieter time in the map. We're waiting for these objectives to spawn.
On to Masu. Masu dashing away from the Moonlight Vigil. That's a lot still burned on both sides. 2 ults gone for DSG as they are looking to topple the remaining outer structure that's on the base. As Yuji wants to re-engage. He's on top of Meech, but Meech is healing up forever. That Breath of Light kept them going. There's Spyrax now in the back line. They've got him. They backed him, but you got to be careful. The Croc is in 3, diving by himself. Nearly was able to take out Yuji. It's a trade of 1-for-1 at the moment. Meech for Spyrax. Masu
gets
running from Tomio, but he's tagged. He's got to be careful. The slow. He wasn't able to predict that one, but he has enough kiting potential, even with the bubble. Nearly thrown back on Tomio. The kick back onto Faisal means they don't have the front line to tank up any more damage.
Honestly, okay from the side of FlyC. I love how FlyQuest is playing this out. Again, something I complimented them for last split and earlier in the pre-show was that they have the ability to play a lot of different styles as a team, which is pretty rare for some of our challenger squads, and it's great to see them with the scaling comp. Look how they play that skirmish on the top side. We had the trade of Spyrax ult-for-ult with Young. They got him out, and then they were able to bleed out Tomio's ultimate. Masu tanked that, able to dodge out to make sure he doesn't go down. Winsome topped him off, and then after that, FlyQuest are like, hey, we burned enough tools to actually be able to turn and find something on our own. A 1-for-1 at this point of the game. That's good for their side as they stall out the game. Trade gold evenly in their pockets, and look at the inventories.
Yes.
Nashor's Tooth, that second item we've been teasing for Azir and his ability to really break tanks, break frontline with that. He now has access to it. So Spyrax Azir is going to be very scary for the rest of this game. If he's allowed to free hit and auto attack, he can melt the front line of DSG, and that is the comeback mechanic here for FlyC.
And a big thing with Fake God being the one who has a lot of the gold is everyone always talks about Renekton and how Renekton falls off as the game progresses. Well, you know, when you have an Azir on the other side that can kite you, that gold is not as useful anymore. You really need to get that into players like Meech. And Meech, he's 0 and 2. He was focused in that last fight. He couldn't do anything.
I want to see FlyQuest drop this next dragon. I think I want to see this guys take it as one. Like, try and commit the least amount of resources to take this dragon for themselves and can maintain control over the Baron as Masu finds a decent chunk.
Gotta be careful of Young and Fake God. Still, even if Fake God, you know, on Renekton, we talk about the late game falling off, he's still level 17. Yuji forced to use Cyclone just to escape. And Fake God found Masu, the Croc, diving all the way back into the team. Taking down FlyQuest Challengers left, right, center, mid, only having Spyrex left. Spyrex 1 versus the world, and it's against Fake God.
Oh,
Fake
that's not
God
enough
the
damage.
Croc, dashing into him, making sure he can't move. It is a clean ace for Disguised.
And that's going to be the game, as Disguise were able to find Meech. He burned Flash in that last skirmish. Fake God punish, and Fake God MVP of this game, as it was nothing but dominance from his Croc in the top side. FlyQuest not allowed to scale, and Disguise find another 1-1 split.
Finding a 1-1 split against the team that had yet to lose. Sure, it's only day 2, but they take down one of our top teams that we are predicted at the beginning of the season. And splitting that with them as well as TLC yesterday puts Disguise in a great position so far.
Again, I really think that the two teams that Disguise play, along with themselves, will be that top 3. But hey, props to Disguise for evening up this series, and something I know that Disguise will like, as a content creator. You know what happens if you win the second game? That magical?
What's that?
You get interviewed.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
Most important part.
Well, we get a look at that post-game
God.
breakdown, and
Fake
this
God.
this game was about Fake God. Fake God on the Croc, the early leads, the full court press from every lane, getting advantages as well. DSG, like they were when they were Cloud9 challengers, once they get these leads, they have the full court press that is so difficult to crack.
And full credit to Fake God, man. A lot of people remember him from his time in LCS, where he had a pretty poor end to his time there. But in his time in Challengers this split, he was the best top laner. By the end of last split, it was him and Hoon. This split with Hoon not in the league, I really feel like Fake God's making the case that he's the best top laner yet again. Everyone's going to be coming for him as they try and topple him up there. And he's been a big source of strength early for Disguised in this week 1. And we'll see how he looks tomorrow against Team Fish Taco.
Yeah, I definitely agree that we're getting Fake God at his prime at the moment,
really good.
where he's got the motivation. He's got himself pretty much on his comfort champions like Renekton, so he's showing all the power he has. But for now, we are going to toss to a break. We have Zazel ready for an interview, so make sure you stay tuned.
Welcome back, everyone. We're here with our Verizon post-game interview, and I'm joined by the winner of our second game of the series. We got Disguised Zazel, previous champion of NACL in spring, back at it on the first ever content creator team in NACL, back with 2 other members of that championship squad. Man, how has it been? Off-season a little bit tumultuous, but here you are in NACL on this team. How's it feel?
It feels pretty great to play with Fake God, Aaron, and Tomio. I mean, I had a lot to say in picking the initial C9C roster, and these guys were like really good choices for me. And so going to my next team, I'm happy I can join them again. I mean, losing Lost and Diplex a bit sad, but it happened. But I'm happy we could stay together as 3-man and get some nice new additions.
Yeah, some previous existing synergy at least helping you out. Now, let's talk a little bit about that offseason, because I was asking you before we got into this, did you do anything fun? Did you do anything crazy? You're like, nah, there wasn't anything too crazy for me. I was kind of just gearing up for what this season was going to look like for me. And I want to hear that explanation and a little bit of that background.
Yeah, pretty much what happened was I was looking for LCS offers. I got a couple, and they just didn't work for whatever reason. And then I was like reading all this NACL news, and I'm like, well, not LCS. NACL is doomed. I guess I'm jobless, And I was preparing for that, so I wasn't really up to much. I was it was a little stressful, but how it came together worked out really well. I mean, I heard Disguised Toast was fielding a team, so I was asking about that around. I actually DM'd them. They didn't reply, and then this is hilarious. Their general manager, Golden Glue now, and head coach, of course, and our sub player, by the way. There's no conflict.
By the way, all the roles.
But anyway, moving on. They didn't respond to my DM until he reached out and basically said, like, yeah, you're our first choice. We want to get you. But I was like, you could have just answered the DMs then, maybe.
You could have just not ghosted me, man.
But yeah, I actually refused to talk to any teams that were NACL, because initially I was like, yeah, LCS or bust. Okay. So I had some interest from those guys, and just, I guess I did the toast and ghosted them.
I guess you just ghosted him. But hey, I'll say I'm very happy to see you here, Zazel. You've been such a strong forefront in terms of just skill, but also just a pleasant presence in the scene. And speaking of presence, though, a little bit, you were talking about some of the losses in the championship roster gone, but you have an influx of very promising new mechanical talent that seems you guys scooped up perfectly for the Infinity Breakfast of Disguised Toast. You're paired up with Meech, bot lane, a little bit of a young gun, a little bit mechanical ADC, but also a little bit aggressive. How's it been, and what is the kind of differences that you've taken approaching this split?
So the main difference for me myself is I'm a lot more, I guess, willing to put it bluntly, run it down. You know, last split I was, playing the best. King KDA won the split. I don't know if I was number one, but I had like a 10 KDA over the split. They don't care, so I'll just pick my Nautilus, go 0-8, and I'm just focusing on how I can, kind of make a lot of plays proactively and have some fun. But how Meech plays into that is he is a bit of a maniac. He's kind of I would say he's probably the best mechanical player in NACL right now from bot lane. He's playing on 110 ping, really 1v9ing. Yeah, I mean, Masu wishes he was this guy, but moving on. Yeah, I'm willing to fight a lot more and scrap, and you could see that in game one where Viego comes bot and we run it down kind of through the game, but we're not trying to go that far. That's just like kind of our starting point. We're hoping to refine it a bit more and be more aggressive. It was very easy for me to lane with Lost. He would just always play well. We were generally winning lane no matter the matchup, both sides. So it's very smooth, and I could do nothing and win. But that was kind of unfair. I gotta do something.
You gotta actually play the video game at some point. No, it has been an interesting trek already for you guys, and you see some of that cohesion coming alive already, which is saying something as we're only in our first week. I do want to give you a last little moment. Give any shout outs, give any things you want to talk about before I let you go.
Yeah, so shout out to our investors in the Disguised Patreon, and a shout out to Disguised Toast himself, and all my teammates, Aaron, Meech, Tomio Young, and Golden Glue, our head coach, general manager, substitute player, and I think he's also a Patreon investor himself.
Nice.
So, yeah, shout out to
get
all
him
those
an
guys.
Oran copy pasta at this point. But Zazel, thank you so much. I'm sure we'll get to talk to you a lot more going forward. But appreciate your common sensibility here as we get through this first week for you. Continue on strong, my friend.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to take it away and take a little break here while we do come back and get ready for our second series of the day, which will be TLC versus Maryville. Don't go anywhere.